All right. Today I want to talk about multitasking. Sheesh. Oh my God. Multiple tasks. Unrealistic. I can't imagine. It's crazy. Just to give you all a little window, I took a break from school, teaching school. I've been in education for over 7 years down here, maybe 8. In Florida, and was in the classroom. I was in a whole variety of positions, but I taught history and debate and pre-law. That was my favorite, my best one. You know, my best classes was debate, and then probably pre-law or history. I enjoyed it, or I enjoyed it out of the rest of teaching. Anyway, took a leave to get into this writing thing full steam. I made a movie and I had to finish it and make sure it came out right, and I couldn't do it with a clogged mind from writing lessons and all this other stuff that teachers have to do. So yeah, it was a real big move. But what happened is now I'm back to, being a self-employed person, which I was for like 15, 20 years before I got into education. And I'm hit with this multitasking thing that's crazy because, some things you can work on every day, but when you got to work with other people, you got to kind of wait for the natural progression of time, and you have to wait for them to be able to get to it. So, like I have, I met some distributors, and it's been over a month, for us to be able to but to negotiate terms for the contract. They got to look at the movie. They got a bunch of movies they got to look at. And then they got to send me the contract. Then I got to look it over, blah, blah, blah. And then we talk. And, we may talk once a week, every other week. And I'm not rushing nobody, and for me, boom. So I'm doing that. So I have that working on. I actually, and in the process, it take 2 or 3 weeks for some of these distributors to reach out to me. We saw your trailer. We like the trailer. Let us see the movie. Send them the movie. All right, another week or two. We like the movie. It's not like they watch it that afternoon and say, let's call them in the morning. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not like that. It takes a week or two. So in the process, I'm sitting home with nothing to do. Well, I knew that was going to happen. So in the process, I was trying to get my books out. I have a book that I wrote and finished right around Labor Day or before Labor Day. The one I just released today, the ebook came out. In 2 weeks, the physical book will be out. The Harlem Shake Survivor's Peak, which is the sequel. Then I had a comic book that I didn't think of until August. And I was like, damn, I need to do this comic book. So I ran back, designed the comic book, found a printer, and got the comic book out in a month and a half. Wasn't really rushed, but it was really focused. So I wasn't rushing because, again, it is what it is. And, it takes time to do things. But it took me a lot of time to get that, learn, the graphic layout. I mean, other than that, I could have just paid somebody, and that would have cost a lot of money. It's 100 pages. People probably would have charged me somewhere around $30 a page, and that's expensive, and I'm not looking at it to sell like thousands of copies right off the bat. Maybe after the movie comes out, I'll reach that. But right now, it's just, fundraiser. I may sell some during the screening of the movie, all of that stuff. But y'all had to get that out. And it was a horror comic book. It was good because it was like my first comic book. And then I'm back on this movie thing where I got to edit this movie and do a trailer and all this other stuff. And I'm talking to filmmakers about doing my sequel. A couple of people know that I'm back out in the market now, and they've reached out to me. Jeff, I want you to work on my production. Jeff, I would like you to help look over my script. Jeff, we should make another movie together. Beautiful conversations. It's a lot of tasking that's going on. And I know like my main love is well, my main activity is writing. You know, I don't know if it's my main love because I like making movies and I like writing screenplays. I just like telling stories. So I want to get this third book out of Harlem Shake, and I have to work on the outline. So I'm doing that. And then somebody tapped me to say, yo, we would love to work on the sequel to The Death Pledge. And I'm like, oh snap, what was that look like? I shot him the story. Sounds excellent. You know, write it out. So this is Wednesday. I'm supposed to be on my third day of writing it. And I had a meeting with a distributor yesterday that pushed, you know, I had to get ready for, got pushed back. So there's a lot, you know, not to mention two other things, not to mention I got tapped to do my next Black Dreams Matter presentation, the importance of black sci-fi, the political use of black sci-fi, all those different things. And you know, different than black comic book presentations, I focus on the imagination that exists within all of the mediums, that is film, video games, comic books, books, movies and television. So I do all of that. So I don't just talk about black comic books. I talk about all of that, and I'm giving that presentation in February. So that's a cool thing. And then my grand production is my LitCon, and oh my God, I've never put on a comic book or science fiction convention or book fair before, and this event is all three of those in one. And I don't care if I get 10, 15 science fiction writers, 10, 15 urban book writers, and, you know, a couple comic book people, because the whole thing is about everybody coming together. But it's a lot of different mediums that I'm promoting and pulling from, and it's a little bit of everything, and it's a lot of black. So I got some really good conversations, learning how to book guests. So all of that is multitasking. I pulled off the book, I pulled off the comic book, I'm still pulling off the film, and I just wanted to share like how all of that works. And plus I still read, you know, my mind is writing. Like right now, I'm going to go home and I'm going to get started on finishing up the outline for the sequel of the movie. Hopefully, right now I like what I have. I might start writing today. The last phase for me in this one seems like I'm naming the characters. So I have to think of some cool names. I got caught with one of my books, and I changed. I thought of a corny name, and then I changed the name after. And my first manuscript, I had two names for the same character in the book. So I like to make sure I get this done before the book comes out, because I don't want to confuse myself. But anyway, yeah, that's how it is. Now, how do I do this multitasking? Well, one, I keep notes. You know how people talk about a vision board? I do something very similar, but I write out my agenda. You know, I have an agenda board, if you want to call it anything. Vision board is things that you want to see come into fruition. An agenda board may be things that you're working on that you just got to make sure you keep in mind. You got to keep in order. If you're doing multiple tasks, you want to make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's. I'm the stay-home person now, so I'm cleaning the house, cooking the food, all of that other stuff. I'm doing the shopping, stuff that I wasn't doing before, so I have to keep it all in line, you know. So yeah, we had work done on the house back in August, threw me. So sometimes I feel a little anxiety of not being able to do everything that I want to do when I want to do it, and my agenda board keeps me in line. It helps me. More important, it's funny, but it helps me sleep at night. And why do I say that? Is because sometimes I sit and go to sleep and be like, damn, I ain't do nothing all day. And then I, you know, may peek over at my notebook with my agenda board on it, and I'm like, oh, you worked on this, you worked on this. And it's a little bit of of a lot of things, but at the end of the week, or eventually you're getting a lot of things done, and you may not notice it, but when people talk to you or they see what you post on social media, they be like, "Dang, you got a lot of different things done." And you be like, when you reflect, you're like, "Oh shoot, I did." So it's real cool. I took a reporting gig last night. I went down to Art Basel. A dude couldn't make it. He was like, "Yo, can you cover this story for me?" I went and did it. So three more days. So it was just the first day. But look at that, and it's just simple notes. I found my angle for the story. And tonight when I go, I'll knock that out. So I'm doing a lot of different things. Plus, I'm still reading. I finished a nice little comic book yesterday. It took me about a month to read it, but I finally got to it in the midst of keeping up with the other comic books that I'm reading. So novels is a little challenging because I read comic books when I'm exercising, so I can kind of hold the comic book in my hand, whereas reading is a little bit more challenging because the words are a lot more words, and it's hard to read when I'm moving. So I have to figure that out, how I'm going to work reading books into my schedule, but other than that, I just say my biggest tip is an agenda board where I write down all the things that I want to do, that I'm working on, so I can remember, I have 5 minutes, or I have 10 minutes in between this project, or this one is going to get pushed back, or they're going to call me, they want to talk a little later next week. So in between, I get to do all of that, Also, I research. I got to research my stories. My sequels, my first movie was like Friday the 13th. So I watched Friday the 13th. I watched a bunch of Jason movies, Nightmare on Elm Street and all those. This next story, sequel, is going to be do more visual scaring, like in The Conjuring and Insidious and all those. So I pulled out a bunch of those type of movies, going all the way back to Final Destination. So I'm checking those out and switching up stuff, of course, but it's like digging in the crates. As a DJ, we made no apologies. We didn't have beat machines, so we really had to make a musical collage of existing records. As a writer, I don't do collages. That's plagiarism, but I do take inspiration. It's like reading books is like a jam session for a jazz artist. Jazz artists would compose their music in jam sessions. I like that chord. Keep that going. Do that again. You know what I'm saying? So when I read books, read comic books, watch movies, I'm crafting my own unique stories, and I take inspiration from them. So I have to make time to do that. In fact, that's what I want to do when I go back in today. I got a little bit of emails that I got to send out. I just did some posting on my phone of the Harlem Shake Survivors Peak. And I do this when I drive my son to school. So I'm filling that gap, right, of time, so it's kind of just like that. And I keep my day moving where I'm doing something all the time towards writing. The only time I really can't do something is when I'm cutting grass or I'm cooking. However, even when I'm doing those things, I start thinking of what I'm going to think about before I cook, or I think about what I'm going to think about before I cut my grass. So cutting my grass becomes a brainstorming session, and I got some amazing ideas that come out of cutting my grass. I mean, I left out all of what I'm trying to do with Yo Jeff and the sequel to the Hip Hop Dating Guide. I'm actually thinking I'm going to be able to pitch that to a couple of publishers. But so I got all those things, and I got books on books on books. I got 8 more books to write in the Harlem Shake series. I got outlines for all of them, but I'm not going to write maybe 2 or 3 books in the series a year because I want to write other things. I got my cross-dressing serial killer story. I have my secret agent, and then I have possibly probably my Native American story after that, and then I got to do book 4. So I got a bunch. That's gonna take me till the end of next year, and maybe some short stories in between. Maybe a screenplay that may happen because films are really big for me. But anyway, I am in a position where I'm gonna my deals and my negotiations have included re-releases of my first movies, which I really didn't expect, but that's a good bonus. So thank you. But that's how I don't say a vision board, but I say an agenda board. It helps me focus when I wake up in the morning, my morning meditation, whether that's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. And then when I go to sleep, I can go to sleep knowing that I did something that day, and I can wake up if I get nervous and point to exactly what I did. All right, I got to justify this because the money doesn't always come in every day like you're working at a job. All right, peace.